Want some guys? Welcome back to another video on the Fearless Nick YouTube channel, and in today's video I'll be going through 10 AFL players to look out for in 2023 part 2. Now as you're probably all aware, I did do this video a couple weeks ago, and I thought to myself, you know, there were a lot of players in that video, well, not in that video, that I sort of left out and were a bit stiff to miss out on that video. So yeah, I've decided to do a part 2 on this. So yeah, the players that you guys commented on in that video that you thought should have made it, that didn't make it in the end, will probably most likely get included in today's video. If you guys go on to enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a like, share and subscribe. Yeah, I'm trying to get to 400 subs by gather round, so if you haven't clicked that big red subscribe button down below yet, now's your time to do so. Every subscription means the world. And yeah, I thank you to everyone who's subscribed so far, and yeah, trying to grow the channel as big as we can. But anyways, without any other further ado, yeah, let's get stuck into it. So the first player I've got on my list for 10 players to look out for in 2023 part 2. Now, I believe I mentioned this guy in the original video a couple of weeks ago as an honourable mention, who was pretty unlucky to miss out on the video in the end. The first player I have got on my list is Sam Taylor from the Giants. I believe, again, he was very unlucky to miss out on my video a couple of weeks ago. He was, I believe he made All-Australian in 2022, and he was definitely one of the young, exciting talents for the Giants last season. Obviously, the Giants had a very poor year in 2022. But yeah, I think back to the game against Freo, the last game of the season. He was absolutely outstanding. And if it wasn't for him, the Giants probably would have conceded about 10 or more goals. Yeah, they got absolutely smashed in that game, but it was mainly due to Sam Taylor that they didn't concede any more goals than that. But yeah, he is a really exciting young key back. One of the best young key backs in the comp, if I do say so myself. And yeah, he's already shown his ability to take on some of the best key forwards in the comp and absolutely shut them down. But yeah, Sam Taylor, definitely a player to look out for in 2023. You know, an exciting young talent. Yeah, he is definitely one to keep an eye out for in 2023. Sam Taylor of the Giants. The second player on my list for players to look out for in 2023, again, another player who was quite unlucky to miss out on the video a couple weeks ago. I've gone for Fremantle young halfback Jordan Clark. I originally was going to have Hayden Young in this position, but I thought Jordan Clark is very much underrated at that club. Yeah, Jordan Clark, definitely a player who came on a massive leap last season. He showed plenty of promise as one of the better young halfbacks in the comp, along with the likes of Sinclair, Rioli, and even guys like Kadeem Coleman and the likes. Jordan Clark, a player I think kind of went under the radar at the Dockers, but he's turned out to be one of the best pickups of any club in the last couple of years. He's definitely a player to watch in 2023, considering how good his form was towards especially the back end of season 2022. I thought he was outstanding. He really gave the Dockers something they were really lacking ever since, you know, the likes of Ed Langdon and Brad Hill left. Gave them a lot of outside run and rebound off halfback. He would often be the one who would start the transition play from halfback to forward for the Dockers, and I thought he was a real standout. Him alongside the likes of Hayden Young were absolutely outstanding last year for the Dockers. There is always the chance he could drop off, but I don't believe so. I think he's just going to get better, and I would arguably say he is one of their most important players. That's a big call, but I'm putting it out there. Jordan Clark is one of their most important players. But yeah, my second player on my list for players to look out for in 2023, I've got Jordan Clark of the Dockers. Just had an outstanding year last year, and I think he will continue his great form to ultimately maybe become one of the best halfbacks in the competition in a few years. The third player on my list for players to look out for in 2023. Now, I thought, again, this player has shown signs of being a good player, but he just hasn't put it together consistently, and actually didn't end up playing in the eventual grand final team. I've gone for Sydney young key position talent, Logan McDonald. Now, I have massive raps on this kid. I think he's going to be an absolute star, and I think in time he's going to develop more consistency. I thought last year he was just a little bit inconsistent, and ultimately that cost him a grand final spot. I think he's definitely going to reach more consistent heights this year. I think he's really going to start to show what he can do this year. He showed signs, like I said, I'm not criticizing him. He showed signs last year, but I just didn't think they were consistent enough. But I'm tipping Logan McDonald this year to have a way more consistent year. I think Logan McDonald, along with Jamara Ugle-Hagan, will be two of the best key forwards in a couple of years. From what I've seen, those two have definitely got a lot of talent to become some of the best forwards in the comp. But Logan McDonald, I think, just got to pull it together more consistently. We saw at the back end of the last year, Jamara Ugle-Hagan was able to probably get a little bit of consistency, whereas Logan McDonald would have a good game and then he would go missing sometimes. But then again, I'm not going to be too harsh. He was in a forward line with Buddy Franklin, so that's always going to be tough, and Sam Reid. But Logan McDonald, I think, is definitely a player to keep an eye out for in the coming years, and this year in 2023, just because, Buddy's probably going to hang up the boots at the end of this season. And I think it's going to be important for Logan McDonald to find his form. Logan McDonald is the third player I've got on my list for 10 players to look out for in 2023. The fourth player I've got on my list for players to look out for in 2023, part 2. This is a player who I think has come a very long way since the start of 2022 and has sort of made his name be felt amongst the competition. Again, one of the best young halfbacks in the comp, in my opinion. I've gone for Brisbane young gun, Kadeem Coleman. Now, I know Rolls Macca has massive raps on this kid, and I can see why, because he's an absolute star. Just the way he kicks the footy is just unbelievable. He rarely misses a target and is always so composed on the ball. And I think if Brisbane are to take that next step next year, I think he's going to have to play a massive role in that. I think he is definitely a player with so much talent. I think back to the Richmond game, even though they lost after being 40 points up, I thought he was unreal. He just continuously caused problems. And yeah, he's definitely been a great addition to the Lions team, adding that bit of class off halfback. I think he can sometimes get caught out on the offense, but I feel like when he just reads the ball so well, and I think he's definitely going to turn again into one of the best halfbacks in the comp. But I think he's going, like I said, he's going to play a massive role in the Lions if they want to make a grand final this year. And I think he's going to have a great year. So, yeah, Kadeem Coleman is the fourth player on my list for players to look out for in 2023. The fifth player on my list for players to look out for in 2023. Now, this is a player who I think you should all probably be familiar with by now. I've gone for Melbourne small forward, Kozzy Pickett. A lot of people would probably say he had a breakout year last year. But this is just players to look out for in 2023. And I think Kozzy Pickett will have a great year this year and probably go even better than he did in 2022. I think in 2022 he was a little bit inconsistent. Obviously, we know that the game-winning goal against Carlton, and he had some big moments that game in the last round against Brisbane. He was sensational, and just his forward pressure and his sense of goal is just unreal. And yeah, I think we all know Kozzy Pickett. He just dances around players. He knows where the goals are. And yeah, on his day, he's definitely a very scary and exciting player for D's fans. And I think, obviously, yeah, he's one of the absolute favourites in the competition. And I think he's just going to get better this year. I'm predicting Kozzy Pickett to have his best year this year. And yeah, really help the D's forward line and sort of assist Bailey Fritsch in being a consistent avenue to goal. Next year, hopefully, for the D's. But no, Kozzy Pickett, it shouldn't be understated the amount of talent this guy has. And yeah, my fifth player on my list for players to look out for in 2023 is Kozzy Pickett of the D's. The sixth player on my list for players to look out for in 2023, part 2. I'm going back to the key position talent again, and I don't think he'll be the last key position player on here. I've gone with Mitch Lewis from the Hawthorn Footy Club. Now, again, along with Logan McDonald and Jamara, I consider Mitch Lewis to be one of the best young key forwards in the comp. Now, obviously, with Hawthorn probably declining next year in terms of ladder spots, and obviously Jack Gunston departing the club. I think Mitchell Lewis is an absolute must-watch this year for Hawks fans and non-Hawks fans. I think he's definitely going to have a lot of pressure to perform next year, considering, you know, like I said, Gunston's left. And yeah, a lot of experience has gone out of that Hawthorn team. I think him, along with Kazitsky, they're going to need to be at the peak of their powers this year. How will Mitch Lewis live up to the pressure of probably being the number one forward? I don't know, but he's definitely shown signs that he can be that dominant forward for the Hawks. I think against Adelaide at Marvel, I think he kicked like 5 goals straight. So he's definitely a sharpshooter when it comes to goal, and he rarely misses. And I think he's definitely, yeah, again, one of the best young key forwards in the comp. And I think with Gunston gone, that could either do one or two things. Maybe he can't quite live up to the pressure of being the number one forward, or he could actually live up, and that could bring the best out of him. Maybe he could become that dominant forward for the Hawks that they've sort of kind of been missing since, you know, the departure of Roughhead and now Gunston. But I believe in Mitch Lewis. I think he's definitely an exciting talent. And here's the 6th player on my list for players to look out for in 2023. The 7th player on my list for players to look out for in 2023. I think this is a player who, again, has kind of been a little bit undervalued, but also maybe not been as consistent as he would have liked. I've gone for Carlton inside mid, Matthew Kennedy. Now, he probably doesn't get as talked about as much due to the fact he is in a midfield where, you know, they've got the reigning Brownlow medalist, Paddy Cripps, Sam Walsh, one of the best young talents in the league, and then obviously George Hewitt came on, Adam Chera came into the side. But yeah, Matthew Kennedy, a player who, yeah, again, doesn't get talked about as much, probably because of the likes of those names in there. I think he could definitely be a great player to assist Paddy Cripps. I've seen a bit of Paddy Cripps in him. You know, he's a big body. He can kick a goal, and he can be pretty damaging on his day, but again, just hasn't been consistent enough. But I think he's definitely going to have maybe a breakout year for the Blues next year, and I think, you know, just to add a little bit of icing on the cake to the likes of Cripps. And obviously with Sam Walsh being out for probably the first month of the season, it's going to be crucial for him to assist Paddy Cripps and also the likes of Chera and Hewitt. It's going to be crucial for him to assist those guys. But I definitely believe in Matthew Kennedy. I think he could add another string to the Blues bow. Yeah, definitely a player for Blues fans and non-Blues fans to keep an eye out for in 2023. Matthew Kennedy is the 7th player on my list for players to look out for in 2023. The 8th player on my list for players to look out for in 2023. Now, I don't know if this is a bit of biased. I see a lot of potential in this guy. And yeah, I mentioned Noah Cumberland in my last video as a player to look out for. And I think at the other end of the ground in the defense, I think this guy is definitely a player who goes a little bit underrated, even though our defense wasn't that great last year. I've gone for Richmond defender Nick Vlaston. Now, could be a bit of a different one. I don't know if many people would look at this guy and think he's a potential star, especially when you've got Grimes, Tarrant, Bolter. I think those were the 3 that were getting talked about. Even the likes of Daniel Rioli, I could have mentioned him in this video, but I think I've mentioned a few halfbacks in the last couple of videos, so I've gone for a more key back position as well. But Nick Vlaston, wow, he definitely impressed me as a Richmond fan that I am. I watch all of Richmond's games, so I can definitely tell you that this guy has definitely got a lot of talent. And while we had a lot of lockdown defenders like Tarrant, Grimes, and Bolter, Vlaston was often the one who would take the intercept mark and sort of rebound. And yeah, I think he's definitely a handy player, and I think he could turn into one of the best intercepting key backs in the comp. And yeah, like I said, he adds something a little bit different to our defense. Obviously, like I said, we've got the lockdown defenders in Grimes, Tarrant, and even Bolter. But, you know, Vlaston adds something a little bit different. But yeah, Nick Vlaston is sort of the intercept marker who sort of can rebound from halfback and sort of, he can play lockdown, but I prefer him as an intercept marker. But yeah, Nick Vlaston, I'm calling it. Nick Vlaston is a player to look out for in 2023. I know I'm going early. This isn't a popular player that people talk about too much. But like I said, this is players who don't get talked about that I reckon you should look out for in 2023. So Nick Vlaston, I've got him on my list for players to look out for in 2023. Now we move on to the 9th player on my list for players to look out for in 2023. Again, this player was unlucky to miss out on my original video. I believe I mentioned him in the honorable mentions as well. I've gone with Sam Draper from the Bombers. Obviously, Sam Draper, he had a bit of a slow start to his career. He couldn't quite get into the side, but the last couple of years, especially last year, he really excelled himself as one of the better young ruckmen in the competition. But obviously, Essendon weren't the best team in 2022, and he didn't quite get the recognition he deserves, in my opinion. I think he could definitely turn into one of the best young ruckman in the comp. I mentioned Sean Darcy in my video last week as potentially being the next Max Gawn. I think this guy could probably be the next Brodie Grundy. So, we could start talking about Darcy and Draper as the two ruckmen to look out for in the future, because I think those two have definitely got the most talent in terms of young ruckman in the comp. He could potentially turn into a ruckman who could also drift forward and back. That would be unbelievable. I think he's finally starting to show his best footy. And I think, again, along with Sean Darcy, he could be one of the best young ruckmen going around in the competition. So I think he is definitely a player to look out for in 2023. Sam Draper of the Bombers is my 9th player on my list for players to look out for in 2023. And now we move on to the final player on my list for players to look out for in 2023. The 10th player on my list for players to look out for in 2023, Part 2. You all know who it is. It's Collingwood youngster Nick Daicos. Now, originally, I wasn't going to mention him because, he's very, very well known throughout, AFL fans and, non-Collingwood fans. We all know how good Nick Daicos is. It's no secret. He's definitely, in my opinion, he is the perfect replacement for someone like Scott Pendlebury or Steele Sidebottom, because he's definitely, I can see a future captain of Nick Daicos. I think he will eventually become the next Collingwood captain in a few years. And definitely one of, if not the best young talent in the entire league in terms of skill. And it should not be underrated how much talent Nick Daicos has. What more is there really to say about Nick Daicos? He is just an absolute star. Like I said, easily the next Scott Pendlebury. He's definitely the Scott Pendlebury replacement for the Pies. And I can't wait to see him, just continuously take his game to the next level over the coming years. But there isn't really much to be said about Nick Daicos, because he's really just going to continue to get better and better and better. Obviously won the Rising Star in 2020 and 2022. He's just going to continue to take his game up and up and up and up. His ceiling is just so high, you can't even see it. Anyways, Nick Daicos is the last player on my list for players to look out for in 2023. So there we go, guys. That was me going through 10 AFL players to look out for in 2023 Part 2. Obviously, this is a sequel to a video I did a couple of weeks ago, so make sure you go and check that video out as well. Remember to comment down below players you're excited to look out for in 2023, and players who you thought were a little bit stiff to miss out on this video as well. Make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you are new. I'm trying to hit 400 subs by Gavaround, so if you could make that happen, that would be absolutely amazing. But I really appreciate everyone who leaves a like, shares the video with a mate, and subscribes to the channel, and just ultimately just supports the channel in general. It really means a lot. Thank you so much for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Cheers!